It is delightful to see all of you, albeit in a digital format. We have traditionally done this gathering at Fly Ranch, and while there is a part of my heart that is breaking this morning because we're not there, the ability to open this up and really be expansive and inclusive of anyone, whether they can travel or anything, if they've got an internet connection, they can be here and they can join us. And that feels like a really wonderful gift. And my hat goes off to the BWB team and everyone that has worked really, really hard to put this together. I'm a member of the BWB camp in BRC. Most of our crew is. We've been working with them for the last 3 or 4 years doing some really special stuff. And this community, I think, is a really powerful network of creators and thinkers and experimenters and problem solvers, and is poised, I think, really in a great position to help solve some of the challenges that we're looking at on a big scale, not just Burning Man scale, but we're talking grand scale. And I think some of those things are becoming apparent now. This session is, it's about Fly Ranch, and it's about regenerative design, and it's about some of the things that we're doing, and really is a chance to focus and highlight what is now our main program for the year, which is really offering the Burning Man community and the wider creative culture an opportunity to utilize Fly Ranch and the space and the community and sort of that container to offer up regenerative designs for climate solutions, and really looking at what does a post-carbon world look like. We've got some special people here that we're going to hear from, and I'm excited to have you all here. Thank you for being here. I know from firsthand experience that Zoom fatigue is real. It takes a lot, particularly on a Saturday, to get people like, hey, come sit in a Zoom meeting. So I'm grateful you're all here, and I know that means that it's important. So thank you. I'm not going to delve too much into the specifics of Fly Ranch, but for those who may not be aware, it's a 3,800 acre property that is just north of the Black Rock City event site by 12 miles. I want to see if I can share my screen a little bit. Nope, it doesn't do that. Okay. It is about 12 miles north of the Black Rock City event site. It is a property that Burning Man has owned for now about 5 years. It's actually the site of Burning Man 1997. So there are about 10,000 people there right on the Wallapai Ply. It was the year that we could not return to federal land. And so we got to know this place. We got to understand how very special it was. We spent the first real year of stewardship of the property, and that's really what we consider it, doing an environmental baseline. We brought on board an environmental fellow, a woman named Dr. Lisa Beers. She's incredible. She stayed on the property for 14 months while we just sat and watched. Basic permaculture principle, it's the observation period. She was able to catalog the flora, the fauna. She set up wind instrumentation to do light readings, relative humidity, sunset, sunrise, all of that. A tremendous amount of this data is available on our website, flyranch.burningman.org, and it's also available on the Land Art Generator Initiative's website for the LOGGI 2020 Design Challenge, which is loggi2020.org, loggi2020flyranch.org. After that, we went through a process of experimentation of seeing what small gatherings looked like with the information that we had from these assessments. We did small prototype gatherings with groups like Burners Without Borders. We did restoration weekends. We've done art builds, starting to collect some really interesting and beautiful art pieces. Baba Yaga's house, which if you remember from 2 years ago in Black Rock City, has been installed. We have solar arrays from theme camps. We have an incredible banya at the Art of Steam. It's essentially a wet sauna. You can see in the background of Boris's picture actually there. He's got a picture of it at Fly Ranch. And it's been an incredible opportunity to iterate, to flex that muscle of regenerative culture, to create positive feedback loops between the event, Black Rock City, and Fly Ranch, the property, whether it's bringing things to that space, giving them a longer lifespan, or experimenting and iterating at the property, and then being able to prototype those things there and then export them out to the Black Rock City event. We've seen that happen with small mobile solar battery packs that we've been testing, with things like ecozoic toilets, biofiltration toilets, and really iterating and learning, because that is what our community does. We learn through doing. And now we have a place to do and then bring out, first to Black Rock City and then the wider world, which I think is really the exciting part. So the challenge with a year-round property of this kind is, how do you do that in a Burning Man way? You know, we in Black Rock City create the container, we identify the roads, we put up the signage, we make a big invitation, and we give permission. And that for me is the really powerful thing about Burning Man. And doing that in a year-round context has some interesting challenges. There are infrastructure challenges, there are personality challenges, there are longevity challenges. You know, in any community year-round, there's people that have been there for a long time, people have been there for a short time, there's people with, you know, good ideas and high work ethic, and people that just want to hang, you know, so there's all these sort of social challenges in addition to the technological and the environmental challenges. For us, the model that really made sense in terms of approaching this space and saying, what is going to be here? What is this space? Was really looking at a design challenge model. So in that way, we're able to do that same thing where we secure the property, we identify the roads, we do a vague placement process where we say, these are the places where intervention is appropriate. This is the places where we know we can have an impact and not disturb the environment. And here are the places that we know are really sensitive through that work that Dr. Lisa Beers, who I will occasionally refer to as Skerpus, has done. And through that, we were able to partner with the Land Art Generator Initiative through an introduction with, I believe, Michael or Dusty Michael, and start to collaborate and look at what a design challenge might look like. And I'll have Lagi introduce themselves here in a second. But really, we embarked on a multi-year project and a multi-year journey to take this 3,800 acres, find the few hundred acres that were most appropriate for regenerative design interventions. We looked at approaching 5 categories that would really give us a foundational infrastructure at the property. It is a community-sourced, community-driven, community-built foundational infrastructure for this property that will allow us to do long-term residencies, larger gatherings, year-round sustainable interactions in that space. Right now, we're kind of limited to event production style infrastructure, whether it's pop-up tents or shipping containers or things that are great for a week in the desert, because that's what we've been doing is hanging out for a week in the desert. But beyond that, we are finding some challenges. So there are 5 categories for submission. There's power, water, shelter, food, and regenerative technologies. It's things like biogas or composting. Taking outputs and making them inputs. And it's really exciting. The design challenge is open now. We have an incredible list of jurors that will help us look at these and find the ones that can work best in this environment, a massive suite of technological experts. And it's really exciting. The design challenge is open until October 31st. I deeply encourage you to check it out, logi2020flyranch.org, and get involved. You know, with Black Rock City not happening this year, it's a great outlet for that creative energy. It's a great way to get involved and still stay connected, and it's a great way to connect with your community and still create something together. So we've got some wonderful folks here in this chat that I would like to open this up, give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. I'll start with Elizabeth and Robert, who are the co-founders of the Land Art Generator Initiative. They will show you their beautiful website, tell you a bit more about the specifics of the design challenge. And before I hand it off to them, I will say, please make sure you've had the opportunity to sign in at the form we have. And if you have any questions, drop them in the chat and they will be flagged by our moderators. Once again, thank you all for being here. Robert and Elizabeth.
Thanks, Zach, and thank you, Lisa. It's nice to see you both.
Nice to see everyone.
Nice to see everyone. We miss people. What we're going to do is give you a bit of a tour of the Logi 2020 Fly Ranch website by way of starting with a little bit of background about the Land Art Generator Initiative. Very quickly, can you just go to the Logi tab? We have been holding international design competitions for a little over a decade. We were living in Dubai in 2008 and just had this idea, what would it look like if our energy infrastructure was designed by creatives? What might that mean? How could it shift the entire conversation around our energy landscapes if creatives were at the helm? So We've held competitions in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Copenhagen, New York City, Santa Monica, Melbourne, Australia. And here we are at Fly Ranch for 2020 and couldn't be happier because the landscape itself is awesome in every possible meaning of that word, but also because the Burning Man community is awesome and broad and massive. So there's an opportunity right now to have creative minds and engineers and scientists globally really reimagining what our sustainable systems can look like, and what this place Fly Ranch might hold as a place to study in years to come.
And we probably don't have to reiterate what everyone on this summit understands, beginning with a session on interbeing, that the interrelationship of everything is so critically important. And what we've seen in the nascent years of the energy transition is a siloing of art, culture, community, infrastructure, and people doing things in their own camps and not communicating. This project, in part, is an attempt to break down those barriers, bring communities together, increase interdisciplinary design, co-design our energy landscapes together so that we can come up with solutions that are greater than the sum of their parts. We all know that systems, as we study nature, work together. Waste streams from one thing become the feedstock for another's survival. And that's the kind of approach that we hope folks will have in mind when they start to look at these 5 systems, how they interrelate with each other. You can decide to design for one of them only, or you could decide to design for multiples and come up with ways in which they can support each other. Right now, the site is in no way a blank slate. It is a rich and amazing ecosystem. But in terms of infrastructure, it's really, there's not much there yet. And Zach and Lisa and others on the call can talk more about the existing conditions if there are questions. We've seen, that there have already been some questions about water, so we might want to go into that a little bit. What you see on the screen here is the design site in a very graphic format. The property of Fly Ranch itself, the 3,800 acres, adjoins Black Rock Station, and Lisa Nash can talk about Black Rock Station. I'm circling that right now. I hope everyone can see that. There might be some tools actually you can use here.
Okay, so let's talk about the primary site, low impact site, and conservation areas.
Yeah, so the primary site boundary is where we want teams to focus the majority of their attention. It's really anything goes in these sites because they're, for the most part, previously disturbed areas where the previous landowners have intervened in some way. The secondary sites are low impact boundaries where you are allowed to extend your energy landscape, for example, as long as it doesn't have a deep foundation, doesn't require any major earth moving. And then the grayed out areas are conservation areas where we ask that no intervention be made unless it is purely to bring back native species, remove invasive species. Conservative minded interventions like that are allowed in those areas.
And we won't go into it right now, but we really encourage you to click where it says, click here to explore the Google Map KML. It is very rich in information. And again, as Zach mentioned Skerpus, she has brought a wealth of information to this project, and extreme gratitude to all of the research she's done on site, and really does impact how we determined the design site boundaries, and will determine everything moving forward with Fly Ranch.
There's also an area south of the primary site. If you drive down the road in gray here, pass by where Black Rock City is built, and you keep going down towards Gerlach, Nevada, you'll see there's a lower parcel here. And you're invited to extend your low impact solutions into this lower parcel as well.
So let's quickly hit the supplemental materials page, because the entire team has put together a lot of content for design teams. And this page is really where you're going to dive into the site context. So we've got a lot of photographs that you can download and design onto. Again, the design site boundary KML file, Washoe County Development Code, information about Pyramid Lake, and much, much more. The Fly Ranch Roadmap, the Burning Man Project 2030 Environmental Sustainability Roadmap. So how does Loggy 2020 Fly Ranch fit into the greater picture of Burning Man and Fly Ranch? And a field guide to renewable energy technology that's going to outline probably 75 technologies that you might be interested in utilizing in your designs, and more. But this is a very important page to spend some time on and download the documents.
Really quickly, what are we asking for exactly? One of the things that's unique about this design brief is that it doesn't have a detailed program, because Fly Ranch, the Burning Man organization, the diaspora of folks who collectively are stakeholders for this place, haven't made any decisions exactly on how many square feet of shelter or how many kilowatt hours of energy are we hoping to generate here. These are things that will evolve over time as the site is sustainably developed in a collaborative way. So what we're looking for here are really artful in infrastructures that can provide the foundation to allow this to bloom in whatever way that it does. We're asking for three-dimensional sculptural forms that can excite the minds of visitors, get people interested in the place. They must be contextual, they must be respectful, and they must also do one of these other things. They must either provide energy, water, food, shelter, or be a path towards zero waste.
So spend time on this page also to mention that there is funding available to prototype several of the design outcomes next summer. So we're very much looking forward to post the close of the competition, working with the entire selection committee, amazing team of jurors that have signed on and are giving their time to review these projects very carefully. And next summer we'll be building on site prototypes. Can you go to the contact page? Really want to point out and shout out everyone that has been working behind the scenes to make this project happen. It's been a great pleasure to work with all of these people you see listed here and many, many more. So, and the team is growing constantly. There's going to be a publication that comes out there. I think there are even people on this call who are contributing to that publication. So just know it's a big, awesome team. And collaborative and interdisciplinary. And I think that what we'll do is give the floor over to whoever is up next. We're here to answer questions once people have presented, and it's very easy to contact us by email or phone if you have more questions.
A shout out to the Profile and Dust team who put together the beautiful homepage video. We're not going to play it now because it'll be all jumpy, so we just really recommend people check that out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Robert. I super recommend people check out the video at loggy2020flyranch.org. It's really wonderful and gives a beautiful sense of the property in a little bit. You can meet some of the folks behind it. You can see who the heck Scurpus is. You can do all kinds of things. It's been an interesting year for us. And normally at this time of the year, we would be doing events, we would be doing nature walks, we'd be doing work weekends, we'd be doing gatherings. Obviously right now, it's not the thing to be doing. So in lieu of that, I'm going to drop in the chat a little beta project that one of the Profiles and Dust crew and a volunteer named Steve that we've been working with is working on an aerial 3D tour of the property where you can kind of like pop around and see how we look, you know, around this time of the year. It gives a good sense of some of the history and really what we're dealing with. And it includes a lot of the primary site boundaries that is included within the design challenge. So I would encourage folks to check that out. I would love to offer the floor to a couple of folks that have been involved in this project. The first is Linda Samuels. Linda, I believe you're here, who has, well, I'll let her introduce herself, but she has been on the end of someone that's been working with a number of students to submit proposals, and they were able to come out to the one site preview walk that we were able to do. We had several scheduled, but we were able to do one. Spent a lot of time talking with local folks in Gerlach, at the school, at the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribal Museum, at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, where they've got some massive arrays going up, and has just like jumped in and gotten super involved and has been a wonderful person. So Linda, if you're able to, I'd love you to share just a little bit about your experience and what that's been like, both getting to know the property and the space, your impressions of it, and then what the proposal process has been like for you.
Sure, I would love to. First, let me say hi to everybody. So great to see you all. And I can't say how lucky I feel that we made it before, you know, we went under lockdown and got to go out to the site. We started the semester, and the first day of class, I said, okay, everyone, we need to book our tickets today. And we were on the site 2 weeks after the first day of the semester, and I think my students were a little shocked to get going so quick. But I had 14 undergraduate architecture students from Washington University in St. Louis, and our goal of the semester was to use the Loggy prompt to learn what it means to sort of design foundational infrastructure. And I will say 5 years ago, 10 years ago, architects were not part of the infrastructure conversation. And so it was really great to see Ron Real's presentation. Ron was one of our finalists for the WPA 2.0 competition, which was the competition I ran at City Lab at UCLA, which was kind of the first way we brought these things together in a like competition, big scale basis. So it's really nice that infrastructure, architecture, urban design, landscape architecture, ecology, that we're all recognizing the value of working together. Seeing the site, many of you have seen the site, but seeing the site for me and for my students was just magical. We got to walk with Zach and Erica. I think we totaled about 7.5 miles, did a 4-hour walk, had perfect weather. And I think one of the things to really notice about the site, and we sort of framed the semester this way, is these sort of dichotomies. Someone already mentioned the invasive species on the sort of third level of site where you can interact with that portion of the site. And one of my students had this fact that they found that after 10,000 years of being on the site, you're no longer considered invasive. So one of the ways we like approach the concept of how we look at the site is, what are all these interesting dichotomies? So we looked at what is invasive and what is native, and that's culture as well as plants, right? There's such an interesting history of culture on this site too. We looked at the micro scale and the macro scale. So the immediately impressive thing is the sky. You know, this is one of the darkest places in the US. People come out here to, but we also looked at animal poop, like the teeny it's also got extremes in every sort of way in terms of things like temperature. So it's extremely hot and extremely cold. Unfortunately, we got to only see it in one season, but still the temperature shifts, what, like 40 degrees within the course of a day. So, so with the students, we did a series of kind of great in-depth mappings about what we saw on the site and what we photographed and what we researched. And luckily we came back and we started working on projects before spring break, and the students learned how to collaborate before we were like kind of dispersed into the virtual universe. And so after spring break, they were working in teams from different locations across the country, and the deadline being extended, which it was originally in May and is now in October. I'm super fortunate all my students have decided they want to keep working on the project over the summer. And again, I'm hoping to see them in the fall where we will continue having the conversations. But we work off of something called next generation infrastructure. And that idea that the kind of waste from one system is the fuel for another system, the creation of sort of symbiotic relationships. All of my students are required to look at least 2 types of infrastructure, hopefully 3. But it's been a great experience so far, and I can't wait to sort of see what comes out of this, and both in my group and in other groups who are participating. So thanks for inviting me, and really enjoying working on the competition with my group and with you guys.
Thank you, Linda. I had the absolute privilege of meeting some of your students and actually sitting in on their final lab to check in on where they were at. And it was deeply inspiring to see those projects and where they're at. And I had the opportunity to do that because I, nor Matt, nor Joe, nor Skirpus, the rest of the Fly Ranch team are going to be jurors for this. We have an incredible list of jurors. We have 32 that range from Burning Man artists, some founders, members of incredibly progressive groups focused around sustainability and regeneration, members of First Nation tribes. It's a really wonderful list of folks from throughout the world, not just Burning Man. And I would encourage you to check out the jurors tab at lagi2020flyranch.org. Because it's going to be really exciting, I think. And speaking of jurors, we have actually one of our jurors, as well as a board member for the Land Art Generator Initiative. Victor, I want to give you the opportunity to have the floor to share anything about your experiences with Lagi or perhaps with this design challenge. And then we'll go into some Q&A questions because I see some great ones stacking up.
Hi, hello, sure thing. First of all, as everybody speaking here has said, I want to thank the opportunity of being connected with this amazing community and to have like a little bit of space to talk about this great project of Fly Ranch and Lagi Open Call. I've been thinking what to say about this because I think like many of the people that is connected here is thinking about technical questions, but that this might not be the forum to do like very hard technical questions. So I just would like to share a little bit of the story of the importance of this. So in these times that are very convulsed, and I think it's very important to rethink about art as a biological product. So if we reconsider the human being as a, of course, as a biological being, and all of its outcomes, a biological product, we would know that culture and art are also biological products. So I would invite everybody to stop thinking about human being as a virus, like a virus in a bad way, as many times have been said during this COVID situation, and think more about human beings as part of this whole system, and how can we convert acts of culture into acts of nature, which I think it's mainly the main purpose of Fly Ranch would be this, like converting acts of culture into acts of nature. And apart from that, I would say like I've been following Lagi for many years, for about 10 years, maybe a little bit less. And I think a project like Lagi what can bring is to be a joint between futuristic and utopian ideas of how to change the actual world and situation with perspective, art and architecture, technology, and all of that. But to have solutions today. And one thing that I would like to say that is also like very realistic is that this won't be like the whole solution to the situation, because sustainable technologies such as, I don't know, like solar power has other problems like batteries, lithium, harvesting silicon and whatever. But still, it's more like doing a step forward and asking these questions that cannot be solved alone through to science or to philosophy or to any other isolated discipline, but more like acting in this multidisciplinary encounter, because energy and some other problems addressed by the challenge of this fly ranch call are complex problems, which means that we need to be multidisciplinary. And I'm not going to say more. I have to be honest that I'm a little bit nervous also, so I don't want to be like talking all around the place. But I'm looking forward to see all the proposals. I've been working for a while, just to give a little context and then say goodbye. I've been working for a while in my artistic practice with energy as a thing that constructs our known universe, and how it manifests in matter, in consciousness, and in many other ways. And this relationship with Laghi is a way to bring all these abstract ideas into something that is tangible and that is putting something into the world that might be helpful to our human quest. And that's it. So I'm looking forward to see all your proposals, and I'm always open in case that you want to start a conversation, ask something, or anything else that I can be helpful. So I'm leaving my contact here in the chat for everybody. And I hope to talk to you soon again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Victor. This is just a small sliver of a large number of really incredible people that have been coming to put this together. And so my gratitude goes out to all of you that are here. While Victor was speaking, I was sort of rolling through the chat a little bit and seeing who was here. And it's really wonderful to see both a lot of familiar and far-flung faces, as well as new friends and people to get involved. We're already starting to get some very good questions in the chat. And so in a second here, I'm going to invite one of our chat moderators to identify a question, perhaps synthesize a little bit, and then read that out. And then we will do our best to answer that, or point to a resource probably that has that, because there's a lot of information that's available out there. I have two things that I would like to draw your attention to. The first is, when we start getting into the weeds of some deeply technical questions, really the best thing to do is to email the Laghi team. They have posted their email in the chat. It is lagi@landartgenerator.org. It's a great resource. They can talk to you one-on-one. They can help point you in the right direction. The other is, a lot of times people have a good idea, or they have some wonderful skills, and they're trying to find somewhere to plug in. They're trying to find a group that's starting to think about a project, or there's a community that's needing somebody that really knows this aspect of solar. And so I invite you, we have a Facebook group. I don't love Facebook, but it's what we have, and it's what we're using, and we're working on spinning up other instances to continue a dialogue. But for now, for those of you that are users, I'm gonna drop the group in the chat, and it's just a great way to hear about what's going on, connect with other people, share some ideas, ask questions to the community, and just get involved, maintain part of that year-round dialogue, particularly in a year where we can't go out there yet. I'm a firm believer in Black Rock City and at Fly Ranch in the fact that community develops through shared struggle. And so, you know, I am heartened to see gatherings like this and gatherings of community while we're all going through a shared struggle. So I think we can do it. With that, I would love to open up to our chat moderators to identify some questions, perhaps if there's ones that have come up a couple times, pop those out, and do what we can to answer those questions and start a little bit of a dialogue.
Thank you. Weldon, did you have some questions?
Yes, thank you very much. I just had a couple of questions. Information provided, but I'm a geoscientist, geologist, geophysicist, and I was wondering if the ranch has, if you have water rights, because the water rights are not always part of the surface rights, are not always part of the subsurface rights, and sometimes they get separated, and sometimes the water rights belong to someone across the road. So that was something that I wanted to make certain of, because that could put a big dent in the whole project. But and then the other project, other thing I wanted to ask, a small parcel down near Gerlach. In doing my research in the area and reading reports and papers and things, there's been an area I believe it's just north of the 350 acres that's called the Great Boiling Springs. There is actually a lease there that's been given out by the Bureau of Land Management for lithium mining by a company, I believe they're Canadian. And so with the prices of lithium going up and up and up, that's something that they could begin mining operations right adjacent to the piece of property you have that, you don't want to have anything, or very, it needs to be careful with environmentally. So yeah, I don't know how that's something, maybe, I don't know if it's anything we could do about it. If the BLM decides they want to go ahead with that project, there's probably not much that can be done about it. But just wanted to throw that out there. Another thing, there's the Ormat plant that's located to the south. San Emilio plant is a geothermal plant operated by Ormat, and they have. There's a couple of really interesting papers I found out at University of Nevada that are based upon how they found the San Emilio project. And there's actually another paper, another master's thesis by University of Reno that's done over the Great Boiling.
I'm going to need to.
Sure, that's all I had to say.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Weldon, thank you for your two intelligent questions. To answer the second one first, in terms of the Canadian company that has a right in terms of lithium mining in the Black Rock Desert. So I can speak from my own personal anecdotal evidence, which is over the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen this company or companies like it pop up several times, sort of claiming the right. That doesn't actually give them the authority to execute or develop a mine in that site. It's sort of a placeholder, and that's happened a couple times throughout the Black Rock Desert. Have yet to see any movement on that in any meaningful way. I would say that, there's probably people in town, and there are folks in Gerlach that are keeping a pretty close eye on that, I would imagine, and that it would be a sort of long process of review and community involvement. It would be something that would need to happen in concert with the community will there, and that might be particularly trying, if I had to guess, to get that will. The other question around water rights. So, as you correctly said, there are sort of several levels of water rights. In short, we do have a certain number of acre feet per water, of water that is our right as being a general rural zoning on our land. That I want to say it's 3 or something. Fireball, you may know off the top of your head what that acre feet per water right is. But then we also have the right of all surface water. And one of the things that we do have is a tremendous amount of surface. It is literally coming up out of the ground to, many million gallons. I can get you some flow rates on the different pools, but there are several dozen springs that are coming up. And we have probably about 100 acres that are pretty well established as a wetland because of that. So for now, in addition and outside of that set number of acre feet per water that we can utilize using the wells that are existing there, and we have a lot of acres, there is also the right that we have as soon as the water hits the surface, which we can utilize as well. I hope that answers your question. Desert Rose, you may continue unless, Loggy, you have something to add. No, great.
Harlan, you had some questions. Don't know if you still.
Yeah, I'm here, and so great. Yeah, obviously the water, like Zach just said, there's a huge amount of water on the land, and my interest in developing it is to work with this water in the most conscious and beneficial and sacred way, for just to be restoring the parts of the land that are not to be to go back to nature, but then where humans are going to interact with it. So I had posted 2 questions. One was, of course, there's the amazing hot springs, and there is access, of course, to soak in that, but I was wondering if some of that hot water could be channeled into a dedicated hot tub situation. And it's interesting because I put that in the question, and Lady B is like, why would you want to do that? And my answer to that is that I have this vision of creating like a sacred water temple where people could interact with the hot water in a more in a certain space. So that the idea is it possible to tap into and pipe hot water into a dedicated kind of a space? And the other question was about potable water, drinking water on the property. Yeah, of course, there's a lot more, but those are the two focus questions to keep this on track and focus. Those are my two key interests to know about right now.
Thank you, Harlan. Wonderful to see you again. So the short answer to both your questions is yes. The slightly longer answer is that contained within the primary site boundary, within that 185 acres, there are several hot origin points. Right now, these exist as sort of hot holes. They're dinner plate sized or smaller, that one could capture and move that water to an appropriate area or nearby. I think the question of contained soaking pools is actually really interesting, because right now we do have this beautiful natural, and a lot of hot springs. It is perhaps the nicest natural hot spring, hot spring that exists in my experience. That being said, it still has a carrying capacity. It still has, you know, it can only receive so many people going in or trying to rub mud on themselves or doing these things before you're really making a substantial impact. And the scale of this project and the level of inclusion of this project sort of exceeds that carrying capacity of those pools. So one of the things we are hoping to see, that I'm hoping to see out of this design challenge in the world of water is taking those origin points. We have hot and we have cold really close to each other in that sort of wetlands hot springs area. That can be moved. You lose, with really well insulated pipes, you'll lose about 1 degree a mile. Or you've got them contained there. And I think some sort of form of sustainable, non-destructive hot spring soaking will be important to the future of Fly Ranch. That's what I can say from my own experience. And then in terms of the potable water, we have wells in the area that have potable water that flow very well. We are working on getting, we have a couple of wells that are uncapped right now that we're working on sort of unclogging. The filtration system is going to be one of the challenges. That's something I hope to see. There could be a ceramic or RO system or something. But it's really sort of in the vein of that open spirit, where it's, we don't want to pre-describe what it should be. We want the community to ideate on that. And power of good ideas in the masses. So both of those things are there, but it requires some clever human intervention and design to make it available for the use and enjoyment of all.
Great. I just want to, so that's good. And of course, I was hoping to have visited. I've never been there. And of course, it's been canceled, the visit, but I was going to go on, you know, just to be able to see and experience this firsthand. And I just want to just add one more question to this overall thing, because like you see, there's a huge amount of water that comes through seasonally from the snow melt and the whole place. When I looked at the photos, there are areas of the property that are just kind of eroding away, and you know, you know, where the water washes over it and all. And you know, I've been thinking a lot about how when humans interact with the land, of how the water and the land is integrated. And there are ways of what I'm developing is a concept called terra aquaforming, where I would see that we could deal with this huge amount of water on the land to make it so that it's the most beneficial for the interventions we'll be creating and beneficial for the restoration of the other property, and just having a, you know, very comprehensive, complete vision for how, you know, we as humans can interact and with the land and the water to turn this into the most vibrant, sacred, powerful place. And yeah, so I'm just trying to get a handle on that. And I think it's so amazing that there's so much water there. So it's really not so much of a question, but if you just wanted to comment more about, since you've been there for many years, how you're thinking about, you know, moving ahead with dealing with this copious amount of just natural water that flows across the property, and obviously has been dealt with in the past in certain ways, but taking it now to a newer level where, like, I'm seeing, you know, channels and pools and ways to, you know, work with this. It'll make the place the most magical, sacred, beautiful thing beyond what we can almost imagine.
Yes. Thank you, Harlan. I agree. I think, you know, where your head's at is the right place to be for this. And I look forward to seeing what comes out of it. Water, you know, water in the desert is, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, when you need it, it's not there. And when you've got it, there's way too much of it. And like most, what's considered excess or waste or extraneous things, there's potential there for capturing, utilizing. Really, it's the design intervention creating a symbiotic system between the environment and humans. That's really sort of the crux of what's happening here. I think there are a lot of ways to do that across all the categories. I did happen to see also a question come up from someone about water harvesting from air. I will say that there is relative humidity readings that are included in the supplemental material that can give you a sense. You know, there could be a sky water type project, something that's capturing atmospheric humidity and bringing it and creating potable drinking water out of that. But I don't want to jump the queue too much. Desert Rose, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Carolyn, you had a question. It was about gray water. Carolyn? Still here?
I'm right here.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Unmuting. Yes, this was a big topic of discussion last year at Red Lightning. We were trying to figure out ways to be responsible with our gray water. And so I was wondering if you guys had looked at how you're going to deal with gray water at Fly Ranch and, you know, innovatively.
That's a great question. And is a wonderful tee up to tease that in the next breakout, I'll be sitting with some really, really smart folks talking about a regenerative BRC plan for 2024. That's sort of in line with Burning Man's 2030 sustainability goals, where I can talk a little bit more specifically about some of the feedback loops in terms of gray water, in terms of compost, in terms of some things like that. Right now, it's sort of three phases, right? So the first phase is handling our own in terms of on-site. In our small gatherings, we have a compost pile. We're able to do, you know, we put some controls on what's available, what's allowed to be put in the gray water, so we know that we can then disperse that. Some micronutrients will start to build up soil a little bit, but really it's just an opportunity to water the gardens a little bit. And compost, you know, we're able to process that as well. We are looking at and scoping what is the potentiality for scaling those up to start to handle Black Rock City diversion in terms of, you know, we can build up soils. There is food scrap compost. There is human waste compost. There is gray water compost. And all of those things, including, you know, we can start doing biochar creation projects out of burns in Black Rock City and start to bring that back and create this really wonderful feedback loop. So I will say, we're thinking creatively about it. There is a category for that in terms of regeneration. If people want to ideate or design interesting systems that can start to capture these things, that can do some, you know, evaporation systems or dispersal systems, would be really exciting. I would also like.
Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say one great organization that I reached out to when we were having these discussions was the Solar Living Institute in Hopland. And they were very informative. So they may be someone you may want to have conversations with as well.
That's a great tip. I used to live in Mendo and love those guys. I do want to say we've got just a few minutes left.
Yeah, I'm concerned that we probably don't have any time for any more questions.
Yes, but we do have those questions, and we can work to reach out to this group. If you've signed up, we'll be reaching out, following up with some links, and do the best to integrate those questions into the information that's available at laggy2020flyranch.org. I want to say thank you for being a part of this community. I want to say thank you for coming to this little breakout and hearing a bit more and really just scratching the surface of it. There's a tremendous amount of information out there. And I would like to give our parting words to our friends from the Land Art Generator Initiative.
Thank you, Zach, and thank you everybody for taking the time and for, you know, responding to this challenge. It's so important right now. It was before coronavirus. It makes it even more pressing right now that we need to start to reimagine the way that we live on this planet. And really, in a way, this is a design challenge, but it's also a world building exercise. We want you to think through the lives of the people who will occupy and use these infrastructures that you're designing over generations. The life cycle for this landscape will be centuries, and we want people to be thinking in that way, and we want to be thinking about setting an example that can be replicated. It's not necessary that your design be modular, scalable, or replicating, but we want you to be thinking about that. And what would you like to add?
Have fun.
Yeah, have fun. We hope that this is a really enjoyable challenge and mentally stimulating, and hopefully a way to collaborate with people, physically distant perhaps, but still.
Let me also just throw out, if people want to collaborate in some ways that are outside of the design challenge, reach out to us and we'll circle to the correct people. But I know that Fly Ranch, it's bigger than Loggy 2020. This is one little piece of what's happening. So if there are other ways you want to be involved, I have no doubt there is an opening. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.